Good day guys! Welcome back to my channel. I will be sharing my comprehensive guide to build and enjoy the Gunslinger class. So ever since the release of this class, the number of players has increased steadily. So as you can see, according to Kafra Service Plus, a Discord bot, during Eternal Love Server's MP Season 9, 47 Gunslinger users made it to the top 600. By the third week of MP Season 10, 98 made it to the top 600, garnering the second spot for the most popular class among the top players. So for my guide, I'll be simplifying it to defense and offense. If it is marked blue, it's for defense. If it is marked red, it's for offense. Now for the guide proper. Our first topic will be stat allocation. So let's see what we know so far. For Gunslingers, we can ignore strength. For Agi, the flee is not needed. Attack speed is also not needed. But most of the Piso skills rely on Agi for damage, so please do take note of this. For Vit, this may be useful for survival. For Int, magic attack and SP regen is naturally not needed. But for rifle type users, there is a synergy with the magic bullet passive, so please take note. Now we go to Dex. For most cases, this is the stat you want to pump up the most. Hit is needed for hitting targets, and Dex is also your main source of raw attack. Last but not least, we have Luck. So as you can see, it's not that useful for us. But in the later part of the video, I will discuss its relevance in relation to the poison attribute. So for those who don't know, stats have an effect on abnormal statuses. So you can check this in your inventory. Just find the Traveler's Notes, and under Adventure Guide tab, you can see the abnormal status recovery table. So I just summarized it for you guys. So for defense, Vit and Int are the stats that have the most impact. On the flip side, for offense, Int and Dex are the most impactful. So Int for bleed and burn, which we get naturally from our skills as gunslingers, and then the other statuses, which we can get from items. So worth mentioning is the poison attribute, which is related to luck. So this will be one of the main talking points for many builds discussed therein. Before we proceed to the gears, let's have a simple illustration on how modifiers can greatly affect your character. So let's just say we were given 20 points to allocate to modifier A, B, C, and D, which already has a 1 point base stat. For the first scenario, let's try to allocate all our points to modifier A. So after multiplying all the modifiers, we get a result of 21. Now for the second scenario, let's try to spread our points. Let's allocate 10 points to both modifier A and modifier B. And as a result of multiplying the modifiers, we get a total of 121. Now for the third scenario, let's try to spread it more. Let's allocate 7 points to modifier A and B and 6 points to modifier C. Now we get a result of 448. For the last scenario, let's try to evenly allocate all the points. So 5 points for each of the modifiers, and after we multiplied all the modifiers, we get a big result of 1296. With this illustration, we can learn that the best way to maximize your character's potential is to just have a balance with your modifiers. Focus on what you lack and do not over-exaggerate just one modifier. Now we've come to the items. So I won't be discussing each and every item in detail since it will make the video too long. It's up to you to do your own research. Please do note that the advice I'm showing now is only based on my opinion, and it should be taken with a grain of salt. I also won't be talking too much about undead cards since it's not very common for people to use. Now let's proceed to the offhand slot. So for the defensive side, we have 3 enchant equipments to choose from. one for size reduction and 2 for elemental reduction. And then for the cards, for physical class enemies, I'd prefer Basilisk. And then for magic type users, I'd prefer Maya. And I would also be inclined to use Golden Thief Bug, since Gunslingers are not very much SP dependent, and there is also a upcoming patch that might give a good buff to the Golden Thief Bug card. For substitutes, I'd also go for Lodestar card as a cheap version of Golden Thief Bug, and other cards depending on the situation. The elemental specific reduction cards are also good if you're going against just one element. For the enchant, the best enchant would be Tenacity 4. Now let's go to the offensive side. So for the ancient equipment, we have 3 to choose from. We have one for range damage, the Voice of Soulbone. This will be your damage offhand, and then your Sins of Living, your Cooldown Redux offhand, and then Vicious Wound for ignore defense. So I don't really prefer Vicious Wound, since I'm mostly using pistol build, and it has a poor interaction with ignore defense. Now for the cards, my most preferred one is Aura Spirit card, since my most used build is the Abnormal Satos build slash the Cooldown Redux build, a combination of both. So that will be my go-to card. Now for the enchant, I would prefer Armor Breaking, the one with penetration. But if you can't have it, PDI is also good enough. Now for the armor slot, we have here for the defensive side 3 ancient equipments. My preferred one is the Third Rider's armor for resistances, and then for the non-ancient equipment, I think they are still viable. So Chosen's for anti-fear, and then Comet Warfare for additional resistances. And then for cards, guys, I think Ghost Ring is still a standard, one of the best defensive cards, and then Orc Lord for physical reflect. The other cards are situational. So for example, Angeling is for AARMs, and then Garm is for physical class hitters, especially Gunslingers, and the others are situational as well. So we also have element specific reflection for reflect builds, and then element specific endowment. So for enchant, I think it would be best to have double resist rather than have HP percent for defensive purposes. So for double resist, I think it would be best if you'd have stun and freeze, but that's just my opinion. So now we'll move on to the offensive side. So for the ancient equipment, I have 3. So the most obvious here is the Dragon Blood armor and the Curse armor. The Dragon Blood armor for PDI, and then the Curse armor for attack and ignore defense. And then for their attribute, I would want to have it damage to medium. So for other shore patrol, if you're wondering why I put it here, it's not only just for magic users, but also for us gunslingers. So if you research it, it can go up to 35% damage element increase for water, fire, earth, and lightning. So for cards, the best card to have for offensive to build an offensive Gunslinger is a Chimera Star card. So if you're wondering why, you can combo this with the Poison Tail, a gacha item, Poison Lily, to poison your target and increase your damage against poison targets. It will also synergize well with Lord of Death card, which we will discuss later on. So underrated item here is Empress Gibbs, the new mini boss. Actually, it's a good item for the rifle build. Now for the enchant, guys, if you have a high deposit in your handbook, attack deposit, I think the best one is moral 4, and then for medium deposit, the best one should be PDI 4, and then for low deposit, I think pumping up attack percent is the best. Now for the garment slot, we have for the defensive side 4 enchant equipment to choose from, and then Death Cut Cape for physical reflection. So for cards, I think the preferred one is the Gungslinger card. You pair it up with the Gungslinger card, but you can also go for other cards as well, like Double Jack card is also pretty good for fire resist. Now there are also element specific reduction card if you choose to counter them. And then for the enchant, I think the best still is the double resist, preferably stun and freeze, but depending on you, on the situation too. After that, you can also go Divine 4 for magic reduction, and then HP percent. So for the offensive side, the only ancient equipment I would advise is the Leader's Pauldron, the ancient equipment with skill damage. Now for the cards, I think the Devil's Squid card is very OP. It will let you cast your spells but won't reveal you, and it also has an increase to the damage. Please do note that the Carnage Capiora skill will reveal your stealth buff. So another card I prefer is Mastering Star card. I think it's very good with increasing your PDI as well as your luck. So your luck is also related to your poison abnormal status. So other cards that are good are Toadstar for attack percent and dex, and then Katsede for pen. So the enchant that I would most prefer is the PDI for this slot. Now for the shoe slot, for the defensive side, we have 2 good ancient equipments. For the card, naturally the best one is the Headwear Star card, and then the others are situational. The Wasteland Lord and Dragonbone are very good for survival. The Tesseract is also good, but I think the MS penalty is too much. And then the Dark Lord Star card is also good. Now for enchant, obviously we always go for double resist, and then Divine 4 is a second choice, and the 3% is a second choice. Now for the offensive side, we have 2 ancient equipment, the Emperor of the Seas and the Lone's Memorial. So between the 2 of these, I think the Lone's Memorial is very versatile. You can also use it for other classes, and that I think the Gunslinger has a innately low penetration, so Lone's Memorial will be better. And then for the non-ancient equipment, Shackles is also good to combo it with the Moonlight Flower Star card for instant bleed when attacking. Now for the cards, as mentioned, Moonlight Flower Star card is the best one. It has a lot of synergy with Gunslinger, a synergy with Bulletproof Armor, a synergy with Carnage Capiora, and then it also has a synergy with Smoky card and Devil's Squid card, which are cards that are almost always used by Gunslingers. So this is by far the best card for Gunslingers and almost all classes, all offensive classes. So it's a no-brainer what to choose, and the other cards are also substitute cards if you can't have Moonlight Flower Star. Now for the enchant, PDI 4 is naturally the best for offensive. Now for the accessory slot, for the defensive side, we have 1 ancient equipment and 1 non-ancient equipment. So between the 2 of these, they're almost the same. So it won't matter that much what you choose. And then for cards, we have Smoky for hiding, and then Hollow Star card for sight. And then the other alternatives are good as well. For enchant, like with the rest of the ones mentioned a while ago, the double resist is always the best. Stun and freeze if you can. And then Divine 4 is also okay, and then HP percent is also okay. Now for the offensive side, we have 2 ancient equipment. Kiss of Gemini, the The preferred ancient equipment for damage build, and then Heart of Molten Fire if you're building the Cooldown Redux build, the Endless Fire Rain build. If you're solely relying on Fire Rain, this ancient equipment will be better. Now there are also non-ancient equipment that are also good. So the Curse Hand, Hardened Certificate, and Bloodstained Iron Ball are good sources of abnormal statuses, but DPS wise they're also inferior to those to the ancient equipments. Now for the cards, there isn't really an OP one that stands out except for the Undead Mistani card, which is really hard to get. So my preference would be Wraith Star card, since I'm using a free status mouth gear. For the enchant, I'd prefer PDI 4. Now for the weapon stat, for the defensive side, apologies, it's actually not an ancient equipment. So I prefer the Inferno Pistol, since it has a demi-human damage redux component to it, and also a HP percent. Now for the cards, I'd prefer Golden Star card for Stone Curse Resist, and also Metaling card for stripping away your opponent's accessories. So for enchant, my preference here is Tenacity 4. Now for the offensive side, my apologies again, I forgot to edit this part. These are not actually ancient equipment. So we have Golden Law Enforcer. If your build consists of having Carnage Capiora, this is the best one. I would prefer Inferno Pistol. If your build only involves Fire Rain, this will be the best one for damage. And then we only have one kind of rifle, so obviously this is the best rifle for the rifle build gunslingers. Now for the cards, we have some heavy cards here. So I double gold circled the Undead Doppelganger card, aka the Dead Soul card, since it's the most OP item we can get for the Gunslinger actually. So it prevents the healing of the enemy's hit. So I won't discuss too much about it since it's a very rare card. Now let's move on to the Lord of Death card. So if your build involves abnormal status like poison, like poison from Poison Tail, which you can synergize with your Chimera Star card. And then if you have others abnormal statuses like bleed, which you will have from your which you naturally have from your skills, Gunslinger skills, it will sync with your Lord of Death card to increase the damage. So this is one of the most important cards. So Freoni is also a choice if you're going rifle build, pure skill damage build. You can actually use Freoni too for pistol builds if you want to have just raw damage and not to rely on abnormal statuses. So we have other cards here that can also be alternatives. Now for the enchant, the same with the armor slot. If you have high depo, the Moral 4 will be best. If you have medium amount of depo, about 80% or 70% at the making of this video, the best one should be PDI 4. And then if you have low depo, about below 50%, Arch 4 will be the best. Now for headwear, guys, I think there are so many gachas out there that I might not be familiar with. If you have a suggestion, just place it down in the comments. Now for the defensive side in the head slot, my preference is still the Eggshell View. Worth noting is the Drooping Blue Cat. It is also a good gacha for resistances. Also worth noting in the F2P category is the Jewel Crown for Magic Reflect. And then for the cards, my preferred one is the Mentalist and the Nightmare card for Sleep and Fear. It's very used right now, these two abnormal statuses. And then for enchant, I would prefer Armor 4 for crit rest. and then go for Vit if I don't have armor 4. And then for the offensive side, I think the Holy Knight Blessing is the best gacha. So much skill damage. So for the MP alternatives, these are also very good. This will increase the abnormal status chances. So this is also very good, especially the Bone Shackles for to synchronize with your Poison Lily, your Poison Tail. And then you have also Flutter Butterfly, a GBG gear, specific gear for cooldown reduction. And then for the cards, guys, I think the Odd Home Black is undoubtedly the best one for penetration. And then for the enchant, there is actually no OP enchant here. It's just a combination of the attack, dex, and hit. For the face slot, defensively, the best one is the Eastern Dragon Visage. Hands down, this is the best one. So much skill damage redux, about 16%. That's actually so OP. If you can compare the sources of skill damage increase versus skill damage redux, there is a wide gap. So this is a pretty good gacha. And then for free to play, if you have the Zenny to do so, Royal Prestige with high ups is also pretty OP. Now for the GVG gears, these two are also good. For enchant, you could also go for the combination of max HP, crit res, and crit def. For the offensive gacha, the best one for me is the Gaze of the Night Owl for fear status, and then Winter Crown, also good for the rifle build. I think it's for good for the skill damage also. And then special mention to Monoculars. This is also good for the cooldown redux build. Now for the free to play gears, these are also good alternatives. And then the Aviation Goggle for the GVG specific gear is also very OP, since it can increase the range of your skills. So now for the enchant, for the face gear, the best one to have is the Moral 4. And then if you can't have Moral 4, PDVI 4 will suffice. For the mouth slot, the best defensive gacha is the Dragon Velvet for AA reduction. And then for the free-to-play alternative, Angry Snarl plus 15 is also good. And then for GVG, noteworthy is the Spike Scarf for reflect builds. And then for enchant, you can go Armor 4 and then Vid as a second alternative. Then for offensive gacha, as I mentioned a while ago, the best offensive gacha for the mouse slot is the Dreamweave Silk. This will give you a freeze status on your enemies. For enchant, a combination of attacks, dex, and hit will do. For the back slot, the best defensive headwear to have is actually free to play. Both the Midnight Stars and the New Leaf Wings are so OP in terms of a total skill damage and auto attack damage reduction they respectively give. Just note that the Midnight Stars right now is very expensive. Then for the gacha defensive gears, these two are also good. For a good alternative to the Midnight Stars is the Treasure Hunting Bag, specific for MP. And then Chilling Wings is also very good in GVG for defensive purposes. And then for enchant, if you could have Blasphemy, even Blasphemy 2 to 4 is pretty good. And then the next alternative would be HP percent. Now for the offensive side, for gachas, the Fate Wheel is a pretty OP gacha for cooldown reduction that is used for so many builds. If you want a Abnormal Status alternative, Starlight Sweetie is a good alternative also. And then for free-to-play players, Wrathgressy Fallen Feather is good damage item. And then for enchant, moral 4 for this slot is the best. For the tail slot, again, the best defensive headwears are actually not gachas but free-to-play items, like the Amethyst Creature and the Lamp-Bearing Mind Spirit. So huge skill damage reduction and AA damage reduction if you get them to plus 15. Now for the gacha, actually this is a new gacha I've just discovered, Happy Unicorn. So I think it's a pretty good gacha if you can also get kills while being a defensive gear. It is also reliant on your offensive capability. Now for the MP items, these three alternatives are also pretty good depending on the situation, for AA, for physical, and for skill damage. Now for the enchant, you can go blasphemy at least 2 to 4, and then if not, you can go HP percent. Now for the offensive side, one of the most important components of the Abnormal Satos build is the Flower Demon Valley Lily gacha. So it will give you a chance to poison your targets and also increase your damage to poison targets. Now as an alternative, the Jadeite Little White Dragon is also good for stun. And the Beautiful Ensemble is also good for scale damage increase, but it does have a caveat. You need to put a certain amount of stats to the other stats that are not that important to GS. So I don't think it's that much. It's really that OP. Now for free to play, Nether Herald is also a good alternative. If you can get into plus 10, it's pretty good. For Tani's Banana Boat, it's also a good alternative, but it's so rare and I think it's so expensive to just go for that item. For enchant, it's kind of the same with the weapon and the armor slot. There's a hierarchy. If you have a high depot, if you have a high and medium depot, it's best to have PDI 4. But if you have a low deposit in your handbook, Arch 4 is the best. For Ancient Relic, I think both for defense and offense, the Horn of the Watcher, the True Sight, aka the True Sight Relic, is the best relic to have of all the builds. If you don't have that, defensively, your next choice is the Horn of the Unyielding. So the Horn of the Unyielding, you will only get a maximum of 50% damage for every second. So this means that you won't be a one-hit target, and you will almost always pop your adrenaline, be able to pop your adrenaline. And then the other alternative relics are also good. Then I also included the blue relic, the Valkyrie's Blessing, since it has the int and the event as an alternative for free to play. For the offensive relics, if you can't have Horn of the Watcher, and if you're going Abnormal Satos build, Chaotic Blade is the best one. And then you can also have Lord of Vayne if you're going for the Cooldown Redux build, the Fire Rain only build. Lord of Vayne will ensure that you will output a lot more damage. Lastly, Golden Spirit Boat is also good for high flee targets, but right now the meta is not that emphasized on flee, so you might want to think about it. And then for Blue Relic, you can have Wayside with max attack percent. Now we proceed with the Oracle Mirror. So defensively, what I prefer to use is the Meteorite Armor for freeze and stun resist. You can also go Death Cut Armor for silence and stun. And then for offense, what I'm using right now is a combustible knife with 20% penetration. This is the best for mid to high depot handbooks. And then you can also have Claw or Chieftain's Axe as an alternative, depending on the situation, depending on your deposit too. And then Holgerhen's Refined Hammer is also a good go-to Oracle Mirror offensively, since it will synergize with your other abnormal statuses. Now guys, we finally come to the part where I share to you my suggested build combos. So please do note that these are just my personal opinion, and I may be wrong a lot of times, and it can differ from situation to situation. Now first off, tank reflect build. So for this build, you can go pure pistol, you can go pure rifle, or you can switch it up with pistol and rifle. So the suggested gears are stated here. You can pause the video if you want. The most important thing to remember here is that if you go pure tank build, for survivability, it's different with reflect build. So the concept here is the tankier you are, the less reflect you deal to your enemies. Now for the second build, the skill damage build, an offensive build for rifle or pistol. So you can see here that it emphasizes just on raw damage from skill damage, PDI, attack percent, without having to use the LOD card for abnormal status. Just pause the video guys if you find the transition too fast. The third build emphasizes on the utilization of abnormal statuses to incapacitate your enemies, and at the same time also increase your damage with the use of items and cards such as Lord of Death card, or some items that have an increased damage to enemies who have a certain abnormal status on them. Having shown the three builds, let's try to tweak them by adding a cooldown reduction component. You can see here that there are actually a lot of sources of cooldown reduction, but some sources are specific only to like GVG and MP. For the item aspect of tweaking your build, this is how you change it. Please do note that in the tweaked version of build number 3, there is now a new stat allocation due to the fact that the stat AGI is now useless for this build. For the tweaked build number 3, there will be a change on the weapon from Golden Law Enforcer to Inferno Pistol, since we won't be using Carnage Capiora anymore. So Inferno Pistol is better damage wise for fire range, since it has a damage to the human component, and as well as a increase in the bleeding attack percentage. And then we also will change the Garment card from Mastering Star card to Devil Squid card, since we won't be using Carnage Capiora, and the negative effect of Carnage Capiora to the stealth buff will be removed. And we will also change our accessories from Kiss of Gemini to Heart of Molten Lava, since we will only be using Fire Rain as the only offensive skill, and that means the fire from the Heart of Molten Lava is very good for the build. Now we have come to the conclusion of the end of part 1 for the Gunslinger guide, comprehensive guide. Stay tuned guys, part 2 is coming right up.